question. I've been asking the same question for so many years. Who am I? Mm, I've been doing a lot of things in my life, but I feel very few things that represent who I am, and I'm still in searching um, of more deeper questions of who I am. Uh, but on the outside, I was born and raised in China and came to the US um, about 15 years ago, and I studied many things. I studied business. I studied medicine in China and preventive medicine, and came to the US, studied business, and then worked in the San Francisco financial district for a couple of years. Yeah, and I that was kind of my dream job, and um, really fulfilled my vanity of working for the American corporation and making money to support my family in China. But strangely, um, like 3 months after the training, and I was working with my friend in the office. I had a great time, and then but suddenly the next day I had a really strange pain in my right wrist, and it was so painful, and it got worse and worse, and eventually I couldn't work in the office anymore. It's very strange, and I barely started working. I mean, it was kind of a computer related thing, but I couldn't continue to work. That's when I really got me go deep with the question why I'm here, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and who am I? Um, so
Wow, that's really interesting. Was the pain coming to give you a message?
Well, and during that time, it was depressing because I didn't know what to do with my life. I just got the job. I had my apartment in near San Francisco financial district. It's like my life, it was about to settle down. I think I had this injury, and it really got me thinking. And I think I entered a period of depression. And every day I came to my apartment, just lying there, feeling very empty. And I didn't know what I should be doing with my life without that job. And the good thing is it got me really thinking, because if without that job I didn't know who I was, and I didn't have any hobby, and no no interest in anything else, and besides studying in school in the past. And so but gradually I realized the job working in the office was not who I was. I really wanted to be free. I wanted to be travel the world, and that became clear to me. And I started reading books about other people. There's one book called Beachcombing at Miramar by Richard Bolt, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Miramar is just near where I live.
Oh, really? And
Yeah.
he wrote a book about he was a successful writer in New York City, and I think after his kids went to college, he divorced his wife and he came to California, living in a cabinet on the beach at Miramar Beach. And every day he came to the beach and just do beach combing and wrote reflections about his life. And when I read it, I felt really inspired. I felt, wow, there was a different way of living. Um, Actually, and then after that, my whole life was just to explore. And nothing I knew what was going to happen. There was no guidance, no set path for me to follow, no mentor. I felt a lot of time I felt alone, very lonely, and I didn't have any guidance from anyone who I knew at that time. So I just started traveling alone in Europe, and just wandering aimlessly and searching.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you and I met each other at Service Space at the Awaken Circle. So how did you connect with the Service Space community?
Yeah. So to connect with that is after just doing whatever I wanted to do and traveling and not working, and then meeting people who work in the environmental world, environmental work, like worrying about the crisis, ecological crisis in the world, really brought me to a larger concern, not just for my personal crisis, uh, personal aimless wandering, not knowing the meaning of my life, and also made me wonder about the meaning of the entire world, where we are going. So that kind of was a small turning point for me to expand my mind to a larger world. And after that, I um, gradually led me to Spirit Rock. It's a meditation center in Marin. And there I met Joanna Macy, who was an elder who gave a talk there. And I was so inspired by her journey. So I bought her memoir, Widening Circles. Um, so 2 years later, I read that book and I felt, oh, I really wanted to studying after her. So when I came back from China after the long trip, I found her and I emailed her from her website, and I was introduced to Joanna Macy's assistant responded, and she said, "Oh, we have a Chinese in our community. His name is Zilong." So that's how I met Zilong. You know, Zilong is very deeply connected with Canticle Farm, the community there. Um, and they also service space. So the rest is history in that sense. Because of the friendship with Zilong, um, my world was opened up even more.
Wow, interesting. So after you left your job in San Francisco, you wound up going back to China?
Yeah, so my wish was, I had this romantic vision about finding the path, my true path for my true self, this kind of idea. So I thought, if I go back to my birthplace in China, if I walk the path of, went to my childhood home and spending some time in China, maybe something, you know, I will remember something. But when I went there, it was a very interesting journey, and I met a group of young Chinese who just graduated from college and started working for the government. Actually, they called student officers and kind of in training. Um, so the government had this program that kind of recruiting the top college students to work, starting from the village offices and then gradually moving them up to train them in a way so they know what happens in with the people, at the bottom, and then they will know how to make better policies. And I thought it was a very good way to get the students to see that part of the world, not in
Mhm.
school, right? So I met a group of young people, and I made a kind of a small personal documentary with them. I interviewed them. I said, with the same questions. I said, if you don't need to worry about money or job security, what would you love to do?
Mm,
And they gave me all kinds of answers, and I interviewed like 4 people, I think. Um, so at the end, I gave them each copy. I had other questions too. So I have these interviews and films edited, and I gave them as a gift before I left. Um, so that took most my journey in China was just spending time with those college graduates. We're living together actually, and the government, a local government. So I got to experience that. But
What
came
an interesting contrast between your job in the US with making lots of money and your job in China of interviewing those students who were learning about village life. Wow.
Yeah, it was very eye-opening because I got to see how the village officers deal with the peasants or the countries, people who live in the countryside when they take the land from those people and they had meetings. How do they interact with them, and how it was very complicated. So for me to
Hmm.
learn that, it was way beyond my understanding. But it was but also because I came from the same background. My parents lived in the village. I grew up in the countryside, so got to meet. So I could see China from that small angle, and getting really real. How things got changed, how in China from the bottom up, and how people in the village deal with the new policies of developing new economic zones. All the issues are more complicated than what I can articulate, but that experience really opened me um, up to see a quite different world.
How did you, as a girl growing up in one of those villages, wind up getting to the US? How did that work?
Yeah, that's a very good question because for some reason, when I was little, even like a early teenager, I just wanted to had this dream about being a journalist, being a person who will be able to travel the world to collect all the stories of humanity. Um, I think I had this like inquisitive mind since I was at a young age. But the education I got in China was all about getting good grades and finding a job for security. And like going on for adventure was definitely not the aim of the goal or the expectation of my parents or the teachers or society. So and also my desire to write or like to become a writer was completely pushed down and by the education system. So I became very timid in expressing myself in writing for such a long time until later. After I quit the job in the financial district, I took some writing classes at Berkeley University extension course. That's when I started writing again. It was really powerful.
Wow. So you're at the Dharma Realm Buddhist University, part of CTTB. What brought you there?
Mm. Um, the interesting thing is also it's long. so so every step, he has been a great friend, leading me to
Uh,
different directions. I see it as wholesome directions, and because of his dedication in his on his path, um, was also very awakening and inspiring to me. So actually, the first time I came to CDTB was the 20th anniversary of Venerable Master Xuanhua's Nirvana in 2015. So actually, I came with Zilong and the friends from Casa de Paz at
ah,
that time.
ah,
So yeah, and then the second time when I visited CDTB was also because of Zilong. And so he told me about the Dharma Realm Buddhist University. He said to study Buddhism, the Dharma Realm Buddhist University is a hidden jewel. It's like a Harvard in Buddhist studies. He highly regarded this university. So I came to CTB and again later to check it out. And the rest is history too.
Rest is history too. So you are studying for a certificate in Buddhist translation. What is Buddhist translation and what do you imagine yourself doing?
Mm. The reason I joined this program is because of the 2 years previously I studied in the master's program for Buddhist classics. The method that university uses is called shared inquiry. So shared inquiry is a method that there's a triangular relationship among the text, the ancient text, the facilitator or the teacher, and the students. And none of the three have the ultimate authority. So all three parties, entities need to inquire together and to go deeper with deeper questions. And shared inquiry, some teachers will put it as like a puzzle. It's like every student, every teacher, also the text, we all bring together the piece each of us has, and then bring to the class and to try to find out what puzzle pieces we can make together. And it's completely unknown. There's no fixed, we call no fixed dharma. So it's like we come together with our own questions and discuss a theme and just go deeper and deeper, and with such a respect of each other's input. And every time after each class, we all felt we had such a deeper understanding of the text together, because there's no way if I study alone I can reach that level. It takes a group to the studying together. And I feel like it's like a dance. You know, the class is like a sacred space, and we kind of dance together in our with our higher consciousness. And whenever I think because of that, I couldn't leave that community after 2 years and after my graduation. And translation program is actually use the shared inquiry method, but in translation, because it's not about to boost an individual, to glamorize one individual who is the best translator. You will be the best translator, but we all do this as a group. Because there's a group way will we challenge each other's thinking, we expand each other's minds when we discuss the text. Then we do the translation. The translation hopefully will be closer to the true meaning of the text.
I think that's how Jia Fu Feng did his translation with Jane English of the Tao Te Ching. It was also with a group of students. And he would offer his translation from Chinese to English, and then they would get the group and they would comment. This is really beautiful to hear. I want to give you another sort of synchronicity in this conversation that's what Wendy and I have been doing for 19 years with our Torah Circle. We bring together people to study our sacred text in Jewish tradition from the Torah. And our slogan is, the circle is the teacher. That none of us, no matter how experienced we are, and we bring in rabbis who've been doing this all their life, but they don't, it's the circle, it's the conversation out of which something emerges. And I'm listening to you talk about how you do that with the Dharma process, and it sounds so similar. My goodness. Wow. I want to ask you a question that you were asking these young people in China. I want to ask you the same question. You asked them, if you had all the financial resources in the world, you know, you'd have to worry, what would you be doing? I want to put it to you in a different way. If you had all the kinds of currency that were needed, whether it was financial or social capital or whatever it was, what and and the world now is in such a needy place. There's so much, right, instability and coming apart and suffering going on in the world. What would you ideally see yourself doing as your way of serving in this world that we're in now?
Mm. Um, I think I really love this question. Even by hearing this question, it brings stillness to my heart. And the heart stilling question for me is, how can I find peace within? If I see everyone as interbeing, like the Buddhist Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh mentioned, the interbeing. So we are all in the world together. If I have peace within, when I interact with my fellow beings who are interconnected with me, then those fellow beings will feel the peace too. And so I can contribute to the large pool of peace in the world through the peace I begin to cultivate. If that peace is strong enough, I get to radiate out to the world. So people around me will feel safe and peaceful from in them. So because we are all interconnected, so when we all have that peace within, when we all go out, that peace will spread because of the interconnectedness. So a lot of ways that peace building is very subtle and internal, and it's beyond language. And so if we all believe, if we gradually building that interconnected peace from within and radiate out to the world, things will change in a subtle way, in the short term, in the long term. But there was so much unknown, um, uh, so much suffering in the world that happens all the time, and how I think for me the practice is to not to be influenced by that chaos, because if I'm influenced, I lose my peace and I will react with either irritation, anger, fear. Then my ability to help will be less, because I will be contributing my fear, anger to the already a lot of fear and anger in the world. If I can use that opportunity to cultivate even more peace to offset the external fear and anger, that will be my service. But it doesn't mean sitting in my room not doing anything, even though sitting in my room just to meditate is also a form of practice, a contribution, a service. But also, if I also doesn't mean no action, but it means when I go out, if I can keep that peace within, when I take action, instead of reacting with fear and anger to mirror the external world, but if I can keep that peace when I go out and do things and interact, I can use that peace and joy and love and compassion to offset what's on the outside. So that's my thought.